Hi, women. My name's Karma, and welcome back to season 3 of the Free Birthing in Color movement. This is a space to hear the stories of women of color and Indigenous women sharing their experiences of living, working, and birthing in their power. If you feel like you have a story to share and would like to have your words and your voice amplified within this movement, please reach out to me. All information about submitting your story can be found within the show notes below or on the Free Birthing in Color Instagram page. The Instagram handle is at freebirthing_in color. Just send me a DM or find the submission forms within the profile. I look forward to hearing from you and making space for your experiences to be witnessed. And now I'm extremely grateful to have shared time and energy with our next guest. Here is her story. Hello, Haniyah, and welcome to the Free Birthing in Color movement. I am so happy and so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you, Karma.
Yes, wonderful. This is actually the first interview that I'm doing for this half of season 3.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
so for me, the energy is like really big and exciting because I'm like, yes, I'm getting back into it. So you're the first woman that I'm speaking to in a long time,
Okay.
since I had an extended pause for this movement. So I'm really grateful that you're here and that we get to do this.
Good.
Yeah, so Haniyyah, let's just get right into it. I would love to ask you, what is your ancestry and lineage that you're passing on to your children?
Sure. So my family is African American. As far as we're able to trace, we're from the South, but I would say that my on my mother's side, my great grandparents actually are from Georgia, Savannah and Augusta, and they made their way to New Jersey kind of during the Great Migration. So my grandmother was actually born in New Jersey, and her siblings were born in New Jersey in the 1940s.
Mm.
And then similar thing on my father's side, but it's just kind of like a generation lower. So we're from Georgia, we're from South Carolina, Virginia, but we kind of have that like very Jersey thing about us. Like I said, we're a few generations. My grandmother was born in New Jersey. My grandparents were born in New Jersey. My parents were born in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey. So we've kind of made our way back down south. So
Mm.
when I was in middle school, we actually moved down to North Carolina, and I've kind of been in the South ever since. So in a lot of ways, we kind of like are coming back home,
Mm.
but I still like have my things that I like about the South, but I still kind of miss the northern like fast-paced life and just having lots of things to do. So
Mhm.
um, I would say that's kind of the lineage that we're kind of continuing to pass on. And my husband is actually born and raised in North Carolina. His family's from North Carolina, so
Mm.
gotta we have a little bit of northern, a little bit of southern roots.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting how you're just kind of like migrating and yeah.
Yeah. Trying to find a home. I'm like trying to
Yeah.
find home.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And the second question that I would love to ask, and I love asking all women this question, is where does your mothering journey begin?
Honestly, so long ago. I think a lot of people have probably had this sentiment, but I always have been the one like playing mom when we play house, and I'm always like, let's play house. I'm the mom. Like, no questions about it. So that was the thing, like elementary school years. But I think when it really felt like I got a chance to be like a mini mom was when my older sister, we had like an 11-year age gap. So she actually had my nephew when I was about 10 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, this is my baby. Like, you
Aw.
guys cannot tell me otherwise. I was like the proudest aunt. I was buying the things and I was helping to babysit him and changing the diapers and giving the bottles. And
Hmm.
we actually did, it was really cute. We actually did like a photo, like a professional photo shoot together because I was working on my
Oh,
little like kid modeling career and he was trying to get launched too. So
I love that.
that was my baby. And so ever since then, like whenever my siblings had, because they're a bit older, whenever they had their kids, I'm like, all right, I'm coming to get my baby. They would come stay with me for the weekend, and I would take care. And I was like a teenager, and like so
Okay, yeah.
I'd be on weekend auntie duty, and then I would like go visit my siblings and in the summer times and take care of them. So definitely got my feet wet in like my adolescent
Yeah.
years.
You got your practice in.
I did. It was great. It's very different on the ground, let me tell you. But yeah, that
Wow.
was helping with my nieces and nephews has always been like one of the highlights of my life.
Hmm. Oh, that's so beautiful. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I actually have a lot, so we're a blended family.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of 10.
Wow,
So
10.
yeah. When I say that, people's eyes just like pop out of their head. But
Yeah.
we never really all have been in the like same or the same house at the same time. Yeah, so I'm the youngest of 10. We like we didn't really ever kind of all were in the house at the same time. And as I mentioned,
Hmm.
my mom's kids are a bit older than me, so I was kind of like an only child-esque growing up, like as far as being in the household. So
Hmm.
that definitely shaped a lot of things, and we definitely were brought up like a bit differently than my older siblings. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. Okay. And then from there, after, you did the thing with your nieces and nephews and you were really
yeah,
involved, as it sounds like, in their lives in their younger years, then what was it that, like the turning point, where was there a time where you were like, okay, I'm ready to be a
I know.
mother, or like it was just always there, or you just had that click where it's like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do now. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I feel like I have always wanted to be a mother. But it was just kind of like life circumstance. I'm like, I can't do it when I'm
Mm-hmm.
18. I could, but I had to go to school, so I did go to undergrad.
Hmm.
And that's actually when I met my spouse.
Hmm.
It was when we got married, I was 20 and he was 22. So we kind of do it like I would say in my religion, it's encouraged to kind of like get on with it, don't drag it on too long. So when
Hmm.
we met, I was like it was a bit unexpected. It all happened very fast, but we just felt like we were both, a good fit for each other,
Yeah.
even at our very young age. So we've been married 10 years now,
Oh,
which
wow.
is which is kind of crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, 10 years. But
Yeah.
so I mean, honestly, I would have become a mother right away, but
Hmm.
I wanted to finish undergrad, and then I decided to go to grad school.
Hmm.
And then I did a direct PhD program. I did not finish it, but I did a direct PhD, so I knew like maybe sometime during my PhD, kind of towards the
Hmm.
end, or I said like once I finish it, that was just something that I was just kind of holding on to, and so somewhere like I would say midway through my PhD, I decided that I wanted to just get a master's, so we call it master out. And so I had a lot of reasons about that, and actually did at the time we kind of put on like a performance, if you would. It was called oh, I can't remember what it was called, but we did like 3 seasons of it, and it was kind of like telling our personal stories in the science field. And so one of the big reasons for me why I decided to leave my PhD is because I felt like I wasn't really making the impact that I wanted to. And at the time, it felt like the impact I wanted to make was more in the birth world. So I was trying to figure out like what do I want to do. But then after I decided to get my master's around that same time, I was like, you know what? It would be a good time to have a baby. Like things are kind of slowing down, kind
Hmm.
of going through a transition. So it
Yeah.
was 2019 when I finally we tried for my first son.
Okay.
I have two sons now, so that was 2019, and then he was born 2020, March 10th, 2020. So right
Oh,
before
wow. Yeah.
everything popped off.
Right before everything went a bit crazy.
It did. It was a very interesting first
Wow.
year, but it was kind of nice. I think it
Yeah.
was nice.
So do you want to quickly go into that journey of this first pregnancy? I'd love to hear about that and the birth story and how that was for you,
Sure.
especially
So
because it's a
I
2020. Yeah.
I know, I know. So I would say, like I mentioned, we kind of that science story that we
Mhm.
were doing, I really have to remember the name of it, but a large part of it was about the Black maternal mortality
Okay.
crisis that we're having in America. So that was like pretty
Mm.
much the center of the talk that I gave, and that was during my first pregnancy. So I knew like before I was pregnant, I was like, I am not giving birth in the hospital. Like that is
Mm.
not for me.
Mm.
I knew that I wanted to have a home birth. And so I did initially start kind of in the obstetric care model.
Okay.
I did like my first ultrasound at 8 weeks. We saw the little gummy bear in there.
Hmm.
And then, I kept I'm going to the OB, but I knew at some point in time I was like, I have to try to find a midwife. I was in Virginia at the time. And so, I mean, one thing for sure about like different states, they have different laws. So, at least in Virginia, it was nice because professional midwives do have their licensure. So, I
Hmm.
was like, I just have to find a midwife, that's a good fit. But for now, I'll just go to the OB.
Yeah.
And so, she was someone who I had already been going to for gynecological care. And so, yeah, I just knew I was there. I'm like, I'm just there until I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I did the 8 week anatomy scan. I think I did the 20 week scan. I opted out of I think the 12 week scan. Did the 20 week. Knew that I didn't want to find out the gender, so I was like, just get in there and find out what you need to find out, but don't tell me the baby's gender.
Hmm.
I wanted it to be a surprise. And then I would say probably somewhere like in the 20 something week, I finally did find a midwife. And
Hmm.
so I kind of explained to my OB, I was like, yeah, I asked her opinion. I don't know why, but I asked her opinion of like, what do
Yeah.
you think of home birth? Like, is it, she was like, well, as a doctor, like as an obstetrician, I can't really tell you to have a home birth. Like, I have to give you the risk of it.
Mm.
And one thing that she said to me was like, she actually had 4 kids, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like kudos to her, but she has 4 kids, and she was like, well, one thing for me when I had my fourth kid, she came out not breathing, and like I don't know what I would have done if I wasn't in the hospital and they weren't able to kind of revive her, bring her back to being able to breathe. So I was like, well, that's scary.
Mm.
But at the same time, I had also been kind of doing my research, and one book that I read obviously was Ina May Gaskin's book about home births. And what I guess one of the key things I took away from that was like midwives are also trained to handle medical emergencies. And I think that especially when it because that's something that stuck out to me. I was like, okay, is this a good idea? But I was like, you know what? If I get a midwife who's trained, she should be able to help me in any
Mm.
emergency situation, or not, any potentially
Mm-hmm.
an emergency situation that may arise. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt a bit better about that. I also read that phenomenal story in there that's about, I think the baby was just attached to the placenta and was, I guess, not breathing, but still okay for a really long time until they were able to get to the hospital just because the placenta was intact. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely felt less worried about that. I found a midwife that I felt like I really clicked with and aligned with. And so she wasn't too far. And then that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm out. So I switched over
Mm-hmm.
to the midwife. And that was like, I mean, that was so like mind opening because I just didn't know that obstetric care or like prenatal care could look like that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Everything was like, you have a choice and you don't have to do this. And I was like, what do you mean?
It's
And then
so
she's like, oh,
different. Yeah.
right. It's like, oh, we
It
can
can be very
modify
different.
this. We can modify this. We don't have to do it this way. You don't even have to do it at all. So it was just like things like that. That was crazy. And like, even I think I did the gestational diabetes test at the OB. Yeah, because I remember drinking that drink. So
Mm-hmm.
she was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," my midwife was like, "Oh, you actually didn't have to do that. You could have just drinking orange juice or something." And I was like, "You mean it?" So yeah, it was very different. At first, I was kind of like, I did have a feeling of like, this doesn't feel legitimate, but
Mm.
that's because I didn't know. I didn't know at the time. So
Yeah.
um, so yeah, the night she had a clinic that was, I guess, about or an office space that was about 45 minutes because I was in Blacksburg, Virginia, so she's in Roanoke, which is like the more populated area of Southwest Virginia. So I would
Mm-hmm.
go to Roanoke and she would come to my house and she would actually ask me about like my mental health and just preparedness in general. We got a chance to like have some more like spiritual conversations, so that was really nice. And then in the process, I also found a doula that I wanted to work with,
Yeah.
and her at the time she was kind of like training a doula behind her. So when it came down to it, I was like, okay, my birth team is now my midwife, assistant midwife, doula, and then doula in training. So I was like, oh, that's four
Okay.
people.
It's getting kind of big there.
It's like 4 people, okay. Um, but yeah, then I did like them. I didn't love the doula that much, but I did like the doula that she was kind of training. So I was just like,
Right.
okay, this will work fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, there are enough people that I like enough to make this work. So
Mm-hmm.
um, and let me know if I need to. I don't know, but
No, keep going. I love
okay,
it. Yeah,
oh,
share as much
okay,
as
good,
you'd like to share. I'm happy to
sure.
hear it.
So then, yeah, I guess towards the end of pregnancy, we did the GBS test,
Mm-hmm.
and it came up as positive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like the kind of the first time I've ever like kind of heard about GBS being GBS positive in pregnancy.
Right.
And so it was nice because again, like in the obstetric care, you're GBS positive, you get the antibiotics, like there's no ifs, and or buts about it.
Mm-hmm.
But she was kind of explaining to me, like, first she's like, we can test again if you want, which they don't allow in obstetric care. She's like, we can test again. We can do some things to see if we can get rid of it and like test negative. And she's like, obviously, we're still gonna have to be mindful of it because you are like, we'll look out for the symptoms. But she's like, we can do what we can. So I like cut sugar for like the last few weeks of pregnancy, or as much as I could. I was going crazy, but trying my best.
Mm-hmm.
Tried to like get more garlic in. She gave me suppositories. I was like taking probiotics. I was inserting probiotics. So it was just like all of the things I could do. We retested. I was negative, so I felt a lot better. But again,
Mm.
I knew that we would have to still be mindful of it. She
Yeah.
did refer me to like a
Can I just
family.
interrupt quickly?
Oh, sure. Yep.
This midwife that you're working with, was she a certified professional midwife or a nurse midwife? A
She's a
CPM.
certified professional midwife. Yep.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because she seems very, open to this leniency, whereas other
Right.
midwives, if you're GBS positive, they'll either just transfer you back to OB care and that's it. So I
Exactly.
love that she gave you options and,
She
you
did.
worked with her to change it because GBS, for those that are listening that don't know, is Group B streptococcal, I think is what it's called.
Hmm.
And it's a bacteria that can like come and go. You could be tested on a Monday and be positive and then get tested on like a Thursday and be negative. So I love
Right.
that she really worked with you to be like, okay, we see it's a positive here, but let's do these things to try and
Yeah.
change it to a negative. That's really lovely.
And she actually is the one who gave me the suppository. She's like, I made these suppositories, try them. And I was like, okay. So
Mm.
that I was like doing the kimchi, I was doing everything, like
Hmm.
all the probiotics I could possibly do. So that was really nice that,
Yeah.
like you said, like it was really, and again, it's because she was a CPM, which
Hmm.
is permitted in the state of Virginia.
Hmm.
Not the case in North Carolina, but
Right.
in
Yeah.
Virginia it is. So,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, this was, so yeah, she did actually refer me to, I think I did like one appointment with a family medicine physician or practitioner.
Okay.
And the purpose of that was she's like, okay, if you want these things to be available to you, and they were all like prescriptions to be available to you during birth, she's like, I can't give them to you, but if you go to this doctor, and this was like in Floyd, I don't know if you all know, but in Southwest Virginia, this is like Floyd, um, very like hipster town, which is it's nice, it's cool.
Hmm.
But I did go to him, and so basically he's like, I mentioned the GBS to him, and he's like, okay, well, I was like, I suspect that you're going to be mindful and pay attention to your child to see if there are any signs that you should be concerned for. But I guess the main point of that visit was he was going to prescribe me vitamin K, and then maybe I don't know, maybe something relating to like Pitocin or some sort of, I can't remember if it was Pitocin specifically or whatever have you. So that was the plan. He was going to prescribe me those, and
Hmm.
then I was going to obtain them, and I was going to give them to my midwife
Right.
to administer if I so needed. And
Mhm.
so interesting because the next day he called me. He was like, actually, I can't do that. It's like I got basically got some heat from the top, and he's like, I
Oh,
can't. Yeah, he's like, I can't actually do that for you. And I was like, okay, well that sucks. But
yeah. Interesting.
it was kind of scary. I was like, oh God, what do I do?
Mm.
Um, but it worked out. So I think I remember at least for the Pitocin, I don't know what happened with that, but vitamin K, she was somehow able to still get a hold of. So we did
Mm.
actually do a vitamin K shot when my son was first born.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I can't remember what all she was able to do for that situation, but
Mm.
um, yeah, when it came time for birth, I remember I went to sleep, and the thing she told me was like, if it's the middle of the night and you feel like you're in labor, take a Benadryl and try to go back to sleep.
Mm.
And so it was the middle of the night, and I was like, okay, this is whatever this is happening is quite painful. And so our prayer time is like right before I guess the sun even starts rising. So maybe it was like 5 o'clock in the morning or something. So I tried to just wait until then before I took the Benadryl so that my
Mm.
husband and I prayed together.
Mm.
And I took the Benadryl, and I was like, this did nothing. I don't even think I like went to sleep a little bit. So then I want to say maybe like 9 o'clock in the morning, I called her and I was like, I tried to take the Benadryl. It didn't do anything for me. It's like these contractions do not feel good. And they were close from the very beginning, which is like I
Okay.
was not ready for that. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to say they were like maybe 5 minutes like from the very start, and then they were kind of like 3 minutes for most of my labor. So I
Okay.
didn't know what was going on. I was just like, oh yeah, the show must be on the road. And so she's like, well, this is your first time, so just, try to get some rest. And she's like, I'll check on you. And then yeah, the contractions kept picking up, kept feeling really intense. They were close together, so I guess I was led to believe that I was further along than I actually was.
Mm.
So I think eventually I called her and she was like, well, if you want, you can call the doula and the doula can come, and then eventually I'll come.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say the doulas kind of made their way there. Like if this was 9 that I called her, they probably made their way at like 12 or 1. And then she came not long after. So this was, I think, on a Saturday or Sunday, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she came not long after. And then, yeah, they were like, they also thought my doulas thought I was like further along. I
Mm-hmm.
was really tired and I was like wanting to rest. I was like, please just let me sleep. And like 3-minute contractions, and I would fall asleep in between them. And
Mm-hmm.
my doula's like, how are you doing this? Like, she's like, I help you through a contraction. And then next thing you know, you're snoring. And I'm like, because I'm so tired. I did
Yeah.
not sleep last. So yeah, we went through that for a long time. Like I said, this was, I guess I went into labor like that night, and I didn't have my son until like the next morning. So I consider it like 30 hours of labor total.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were at my house for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling very overwhelmed by that just because I was like, oh no, they've been here so long. Like I'm sure everyone's so tired. And I was just like in my head a lot. We tried to go on a walk, and I was like, nope, this hurts. Like again, thinking like this baby must be coming soon because everything hurts so much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they just tried their best to support me. They stayed the whole time. They tried their best to support me, let me like rest a lot. And then eventually they're like, okay, we're gonna need you to like get up and do some stuff. Like they're like, this is not, I know you're tired, but this is just not gonna help you out if you're just laying down. So they're like, let's try to do some movement. And I did some stairs and I did like the rebozo off the door and did some squatting. And then eventually, my midwife wanted to hold off on like laboring in the pool for as long as possible because she's like, there's a chance that it could slow things down. So I was definitely feel like I was like a lot more in the thick of it when they finally did um, set up the pool and I got in it. I remember like doing some dancing before
Mm-hmm.
that to try to help, but it was so weird because they were watching me and I was like, this is so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
I'm
The
just trying my best, but they were
observing.
they were just watching and I was like, I can't do this. Like I'll try, but it's not really working. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just that like just the observing and they did like take their they took their shifts and they came and they went. So they weren't always, but for a lot of it was just like it really did feel like I was being spectated. So
Mm-hmm.
they did let me get into the pool, but like I thought I was gonna go in there to relax and they're like, nope, like we need you to like kind of like bear down and like just kind of like lean and settle into the contractions as they come and I was like, oh, this is not restorative at all. So
Mm-hmm.
we did that, and then I was like, well, can I just get out of here? Like, I don't want to be here anymore. So we did, and then eventually, I guess my midwife was like, all right, let's just give you guys some privacy. This was like onto the next or that night. So like, let's give you guys some privacy. I think I laid down with my spouse, and then finally, I was like, okay, like things were happening. Like I felt them that they were happening. So I think like I tried to go to the bathroom and like that's another thing that I really struggled with was going like actually relieving myself when I went to the bathroom and just like the contractions were coming on so strong that I feel like I could not ever really empty out my bladder. I know now that there are a lot of things that you can do,
Mm-hmm.
but I think maybe my midwife didn't know that I wasn't quite going.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
so I think one of these times, or at some point in time, like in the middle of the night, maybe like 1 or 2 in the morning, my water did break. Then I was actually having like shakes, so I knew like things were ramping up, and so um, there was at some point I don't think I really done I didn't do any cervical checks up until this point, but I think finally I was like, okay, like you can check me, and I think I was at 7 centimeters. I don't know at what point in time this was, but the two I did, I was at 7, and the next one I did, I was at 10. So I guess maybe like towards the later part of the night, like maybe 4 or 5 in the morning, she's like, all right, well you're at 10, maybe it was like 6. She's like, you're at 10. I was on my back and she's like, do you want to try to do you want to practice pushing? I was like, okay. And then I was like, am I doing it right? Like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, well, let's try to get you in a different position. And so I think initially I started pushing because I have a video kind of starting at this point, like when the pushing really kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
I think initially I was like on my back and it wasn't really working. So my midwife was like, all right, well, let's try to get you, she was like, I think no, I was started on my back and then I got on my knees at some point in time. And then I think she was saying like, like the pushes are actually starting to come. And then I hear her say on the video, she's like, oh, let's get you back on your back. So
Mm-hmm.
as I'm like about to get back on my back, I was like, nope. I was like, the baby's coming. I was like, I feel it. I was like, can I push basically? And she's like, if you feel it, like push. So I push and they're recording it and she's just kind of monitoring and then I think she like put the um stethoscope or whatever. It was like a Doppler. And so she put that on there and I think she was starting to get worried. And she had been checking the heart rate pretty frequently throughout the labor, but I think she was starting to get worried. And so that's when she kind of was like, all right, she's like, I need you to push. And finally the baby's head emerges.
Mm-hmm.
And then but then that's when she's like, all right. It was 1 minute. So I actually went back during the second pregnancy to kind of to confirm because things were very hazy, but I was like, why did she do this? Like I checked. So it was about 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, all right, I'm gonna help you. So she went in and she like turned the baby and brought him out.
Oh gosh.
Um, yeah. And then so I have it on video. So she's like, yeah, I'm gonna help you. And she like before she did it, she asked the midwife, she's like, what time was the head born? Whatever. So she's like, I'm gonna help you. So she went in, she got him by his shoulders, did like a maneuver and pulled him out, and
Mm-hmm.
then she gave him to my husband was there, and so she like kind of passed him to my husband, and like they brought him to my chest. But then I remember after that, it was like got so scary because he was fine, but I remember like her like needing to give him air, because still had that like just a lot of gunk in his lungs that you could hear while he was breathing. So she did give him air and all of that. And I think finally once the placenta was birthed, I I was having what she classified as hemorrhaging. So she's like, okay, if I can't get this hemorrhaging under control, she's like, I'm just gonna have to let you know we're gonna have to transfer to the hospital. And she was like, you're a praying person. Now would be a good time to say a prayer. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Mm.
So the technique that she decided to use in midwifery is that she put her fist in my uterus and kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, but she punched around in
Yeah.
there
Oh
to get the
gosh.
try to get the bleeding under control. I don't remember
Yeah.
really feeling it much, but I remember being like, this is weird. Like this is uncomfortable. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
I think she did the best. And like I don't remember what the whole Pitocin thing. I don't remember exactly what she had, but I do remember that she put these tabs like in my rectum.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, she was just trying her best to get the bleeding under control, but like between the giving my son the air and that, I was just like, oh my gosh, like what
That's a
a close
lot.
call. That's how it felt, right? Like, I was like, oh, what a close call. And then
Mm.
finally I was like, oh, okay, now I can just like breathe and we can breathe and I can focus on breastfeeding and wow, like so yeah, that was how that first birth ended up going. And then
Mm-hmm.
she came back a few days. I think she came back like maybe a couple weeks later, but like I said, it was COVID. So she's like, yeah, don't go anywhere. She's like, it would not be a good time to like go to the doctor. She's like, I
Mm-hmm.
will come to you for as long as I kind of need to. I
Mm-hmm.
was even able to find someone, another midwife who was a nurse midwife, to come to the home and do the circumcision for my son. So I didn't need to find anyone to do that either. So she was like, "Yep, just stay in the house." And so that's what I did. And then, like I said, they shut down the state of Virginia until like June. They're like, "Don't go anywhere until June." And that was like, what? So
Right. So what was your postpartum experience like then with this
yeah,
baby? Um, or with your first baby? Like how was
yeah,
your breastfeeding relationship? How did you feel after having that experience with the midwife, pulling the baby out and putting her
yeah.
hand into your uterus and like did that affect you at all in that postpartum timing?
So I think during the time, like it's one of the things I was like, oh, thank goodness she was here. Like, thank goodness she was able to do all those things. So I didn't really even think about it as it wasn't something that I held on to in the initial postpartum period. I
Hmm.
just felt great. I was like, wow, my home birth was successful. Like that was the biggest thing for me.
Hmm.
Especially because, no one in my family had done home birth. No one had in my family had done birth like this, like
Okay.
ever for as long as we know for the past few generations. So I think
Hmm.
that was the big thing. I was like, wow, I'm so I just felt like I remember feeling like immense gratitude. I was like, okay, I did it. Like God blessed me. I felt really content and like overwhelmed with joy about all of that. And she gave me lots of tinctures and I was taking chlorophyll and I was drinking all the stuff and taking all the teas. So I felt really good. Breastfeeding also, like that was something that I was worried about just because we also don't have a long history of breastfeeding in my family.
Okay.
I think my sisters tried for a little bit for the first few months. I won't say tried as in like they failed, but they did it for the first few months kind of, or maybe less for their children, but they mainly bottle fed or formula. So breastfeeding was not something that we were particularly like well versed in.
Hmm.
My mom actually did breastfeed me for quite a few months, which she hadn't done for my older siblings. So that
Hmm.
was also like I said, like all of this was very kind of new to for us.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I did ask kind of no one to really come for the first couple weeks, which ended up turning into months, which was not intentional. But again, it was the pandemic, so it was
Hmm.
just kind of me. It was literally just me and my husband, um, for months. And whenever my midwife would come, and then that was pretty much it. That was like the hands-on support that I had, which like I for some reason I felt fine about it. So
Hmm.
I I was not as worried as you would think I would be, especially as a first-time mom. Breastfeeding went off like immediately, went to a great start.
Yeah.
My breast size like didn't change during birth, so I do remember like feeling for a very long time like, what if I can't breastfeed? Like, and my midwife told me, and I knew like breast doesn't equal milk, but breast
Hmm.
size doesn't equal milk quantity. But I was like, gosh, like no change at all. Like this is
Hmm.
what is this? So she did tell me, she's like, well, if you want, you can take goat's rue kind of soon as baby comes.
Hmm.
And then she was like, goat's rue actually does build, I think, mammary glands. So she's like, you can take that. So I did take the goat's rue, and I remember making cookies and all of that. So
Hmm.
he latched really well. I think it's part into just like my nipple shape and size. It's just very accommodating. So
Yeah.
didn't really have he and my son even had like a lip and tongue tie and still had no issues.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, like no issues. And I did take him to an ENT eventually because my midwife was like, it can cause issues with breastfeeding, it can cause issues with speech, but
Hmm.
um, ultimately the doctor was like, oh, he seems fine. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So
So you
yeah,
didn't get them revised.
I did not get them revised, and he's
Yeah.
5 now.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it went I think postpartum went really well.
Mm.
And it did take me almost 4 years to decide to have another, or yeah, because I nursed him for a very long time. Like he latched so well that he's like, I'm never stopping. So
Mm. How long
I
was
just
it until you finished nursing your first?
yeah, so I did nurse him until he was almost 3,
Okay.
just a few
Yeah.
months shy of 3, and I did like I on demand nurse
Hmm.
day and night. So then it got to a certain point in time where I was like, okay, I think I need to try night weaning first, just
Hmm.
because it was like and it started to actually not be very comfortable. Like, I think the older he got, it started to be less of like a forceful nursing, which is not like, it doesn't bother me. And it started to be more like, I was like, you're just messing around and this is making me feel
Oh,
like I don't like the way this feels.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I was
I
like, you're
hear that
just
often. They're
here.
just like hanging around on the
Yeah, I was
boob, and
like,
you're
this
like, "Are you
is
actually
not it.
eating?" Or like, "What's going on now?"
No, like this is not it. So I was like, okay, let's try night weaning first,
Hmm.
which was like that was a nightmare. When I first tried to wean him, I did try to start at like 2.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say that's mainly because like for I guess like our religious practice or recommendation is to like the weaning period is described as 2 years. Not that you have to like 2 years and you're out of here, but
Yeah.
ideally it'd be best to try to nurse for 2 years. So I was like, all right, here's my 2 years, like you're done. And then that went miserably. So I was like, okay,
Hmm.
we're not gonna be weaning right now. He like one night I tried to help him and my husband was helping him and he cried for hours and hours and I was like, I can't do this.
Hmm.
Um, so then it was like I was like, okay, I need to try a more gradual approach. So eventually, yeah, were able. My husband was able to start getting him to sleep at night
Hmm.
without having to nurse. And so that was like I was like, okay, making progress. And then started like I started counting when he would nurse like during the day, like to 10, and then he would stop. So then ultimately, when it was time to wean him, he was just like a few months shy of 3. And I was like, I went on a trip for the weekend. It was the first time I had done that. And he was like, he and his dad had such a blast. They were so fine without me that I was like,
Yeah.
oh, we're done.
Yeah.
So I came back and I'm like, Milky's went bye-bye on the airplane and we're done.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I had a
ultimately it
friend
was
do
a
that
really,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So ultimately it ended up being a very like peaceful ending to our breastfeeding journey. And I did not see it happening that way, but it worked out just fine.
Hmm. Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Sometimes you just have to do that. Like, and you try the steps and night weaning and things, and sometimes it doesn't work, and you just have to go away for the weekend and just cut it off, and then they're fine. The babies are
They were
fine.
so fun. He was so fun. I was like,
Yeah.
you're too fun.
Yeah.
No, it was
Yeah.
great. They had
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you said there's quite an age gap. There's about 4 or 5 years between your first and your second. So
Yep.
what was that like experience mothering this child, and how did you come into the notion that you wanted to birth free of the system? Did that build throughout that 5 years or?
It did. It
Hmm.
did. And I really do believe that a lot of that is just divine timing because
Hmm.
like I said, I had him in 2020 and then the amount of information that I had just acquired, and it wasn't like necessarily intentional, but
Hmm.
through those years, um, it really like changed my perspective on so much.
Yeah.
I would say the first like um first time I came to know free birthing was actually through like an old friend from middle school. And so she has a platform. She's really cool, and her husband's really cool, and they have 5 kids now.
Mm-hmm.
But she was kind of, I think she posted a video of her second birth, which ended up being a free birth. And so she was saying, like, in the first, she said for her first birth, she did have the midwife. And I think for the second birth, I don't know if it was intentional that maybe the midwife didn't make it something, but she ended up not having the midwife at the second birth, and she was explaining her free birth.
Right.
And then so that was her first kid was with the midwife, or maybe actually the midwife moved. There was some reason, but
Mm-hmm.
her second, third, fourth, and fifth children were all free birth. So at the time, I just knew about the one free birth, and it was like something that I was just like, wow, like that is so boss. And I was like, I don't know if I can ever do that. Like especially the way the interventions that my midwife took with my first, I was like, well, I don't know if I could manage that, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And so slowly but surely, I started to getting more exposure to free birth. I would say like some really big influences were actually you did interview her a few years ago, Chantal Blake, who's she has the Honored Womb Circle. So that
Yeah.
was like my first time.
Hey.
Yeah, that was like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, it's like Muslim women free birth. Like, what is this? I did not
Yes.
expect that. I was like
Hmm.
totally taken aback. But and I started like following her and
Hmm.
um And so then I heard about, I think I've heard about her story initially, or maybe her first podcast was through the Free Birth Society, but then I saw that there was also a follow-up or an interview that you did with her.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really nice. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then I think ultimately I was like, I really like this. I really like the idea of free birthing, and especially like a big part of it was like I remember four birth attendants, like in
Mm-hmm.
some way, shape, or form. There's four people with me at my birth who was not my
Yeah.
spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the spectating, I was like, yeah, I would really like to be in a situation where I don't have to be watched for 30 hours or like
Right?
that sounds really nice. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't even conceptualize that could have been a reality where I could just mainly do it by myself
Mm-hmm.
at the time. So just kind of like hearing that and following the Free Birth Society was like initially where I went to at the time that I was conceived my second child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I remember having the IUD, a copper IUD between my first and my second. So it was like a matter of just getting it removed. And then we got pregnant like the very next cycle. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, time to start preparing for this free birth. So yeah, Free Birth Society was the first place that I went to. And I would say the main reason was because they had like such a slew of podcasts, and then they had like their course and all of that. But then I also decided, and I like was on the fence of like, oh, should I take this course? And then I also decided to reach out to Sean Paul, and I was like, hey, I'm expecting and I really think I want to do this free birthing. Like, do you have any resources for me? And so, or any advice? And so she actually pointed me in the direction of a different sister who's also Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually wrote a book. So her Instagram page is Blossoming Nadia, but she wrote a book that was about free birthing. And it was really nice because I don't remember exactly about Chantal's conversation, but the way that this book was kind of framed was like it was very like spiritually rooted in kind of the idea of like that this is a part of God's design for us to be able to do this. And she
Mm-hmm.
like really she tied it in so much to like obviously our faith practice. And so I was like, this is awesome. And she gave like practical tips, but she also kind of like had the spirituality to it. So
Mm-hmm.
that book was very, very encouraging. I think she had maybe free birth all of her children, all three of her children. And she had done like lotus births for two of them and all of that. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, like, but then I even free birthing, like I kind of knew about, but I also didn't really understand until I became pregnant about the concept of like this wild pregnancy. And I
Yeah.
think her book helped me a lot with that as well.
Yeah.
Um, because I was like, wow, I actually don't have to get any like care. Like I don't have to like I was like, and the way she kind of framed it, and I think a lot of people do is like the care is in your hands. Like,
Yeah.
and the way I try to explain it to other people, I'm like, okay, you may go to the doctor, once a month in the beginning. You may go to the doctor once every 2 weeks, and then once
Mm-hmm.
every week. But it's like, what's happening in between that? Like, you're the person who
Mm-hmm.
really is actually managing your birth, whether
Yeah.
you recognize that or not.
Totally. Yeah, you're
And
taking care of yourself and you're
yeah,
feeding yourself, nourishing yourself, you're doing all the things. The OB appointment is just, a quick 20-minute, okay,
yeah,
let's see, you're at this stage, check, check, check. You meet all the
exactly.
boxes and like that's it. They're not really doing anything. So
No,
it makes sense to just take that upon yourself and yeah.
exactly. And there was actually, I remember one other friend of mine who I had just really gotten to know her because she ended up marrying like my friend's brother. So it was like someone who just like kind of was brought into the circle that I didn't really, I got to know her a little bit better. And so
Hmm.
I mean, she's awesome, but she's actually the first person who I saw like in real time in one of my circles that practiced a wild pregnancy. So it was kind of like right before I conceived. But
Yeah.
yeah, she was just like, and of course my friends were like, I was like, oh, when's the baby due? And she's like, oh, I don't really know. And I was like, what? And I was like looking at like her
Yeah.
sister-in-laws her sisters-in-law who are my friends, and they were like, yeah, she didn't like. It was just like they're like, oh, she didn't get an ultrasound, like as if like, what the heck? And that's how they took it. They're like, yeah, what the heck? She didn't get an ultrasound. And I was just like, you didn't get an ultrasound? Like, what is this? So all of that just kind of happened at the same time where I was like, I don't have to do these things. I did not consider that. So yeah, from the very beginning, I was like, okay, I guess I'm not getting an ultrasound.
Yeah.
Um, and I know some people who do free birth, they decide to get an ultrasound. A lot of it is obviously like to see how things are, but they also use it as like a record of pregnancy or
Hmm.
I know a lot of people do that. So of course I
Hmm.
had to try to navigate that. I was like, oh, what actually am I going to use as my proof of pregnancy? So I was on the fence, like, should I get an ultrasound?
Hmm.
You know, but then when I did, I guess the more I looked into it, I was like, okay, I still don't feel like I need it. So ultimately, I ended up just having a friend right, like I wrote the letter, we notarized it
Mm.
at the local UPS, and then I was able to give that as a part of my birth pack. And I was like, that was so easy.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was like all this was just like so new to me. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, so this was kind of like into the second pregnancy, and I would say this is what I was gonna bring up that I was like kind of thinking about for a minute, but I did I'm a part of like a book club of I would say they were my friends at this point in time because that's the point of the book club, but
Yeah.
we I think also maybe they had asked me like, oh, have you gone to the doctor? Have you got an ultrasound? And when I tell you that turned into like one of the worst conversations of my entire life, like
Okay.
and yeah, from that moment I was like, okay, I will not be telling anyone my plans from here on out. So I
Wow.
Yeah, I think mostly my family probably assumed that I was just gonna do a home birth again. And
Yeah.
then when they asked me, they're like, "Are you gonna have someone?" I was like, "No," and they're like, "Okay." Like my family knows. They're
Hmm.
like, "Okay." Like you know what you're doing. Which is really great. Like of course they probably
Hmm.
are freaking out, but they just like I've always been the person, especially like being the youngest and kind of like doing things so differently that they're just like, "You know what you're doing. Like you're a
Yeah.
gangster." That's what they said. Like you're a gangster. Like we don't mess with you. But my friends did not have that same approach, and I was like
Mm.
so shocked. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting the people that sometimes it surprises you, the people that you'd think would be, in support of you choosing to make this your birth choices in this way. And then it's the people that you thought would be like, oh, no, I don't think that you should do this, is the ones that are totally for it. It's
Yeah.
when it comes to birth and pregnancy in women, yeah, it's always so surprising how people then just decide to try and tell you what to do
Yeah.
with
I'm
your
like,
body and your baby.
how do they feel about it? And you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So what kind of things were they saying? Like, that's not safe, you shouldn't be birthing outside the system, you need a midwife, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
that kind of regular.
Yeah. So all the things like I guess one, like the person who definitely has like the strongest opinion in general about a lot of things in our group, she's just kind of like, for her, she's like the meat of it. She's like, honestly, she's like, I don't care about your fetus. Like, and she said it, but that's just how she talks. But she's kind of
Mm,
like, she's like, I'm not worried about the baby. She's like, I'm worried about you. And she's like, I don't understand how you don't feel like you should take like how you don't care about yourself enough to go get checked out basically by a doctor.
right.
She's like,
Mm,
she's like it's all about the baby, but she's like, what about you? Like, how are you sure that you're okay? And I'm like,
mm,
because I feel okay. Like
mhm.
I'm like so far there are no signs that would indicate that I'm not doing okay.
Yeah.
And then of course I had friends that are like, okay, so do you not go to the dentist? Like, do you not go to the dentist for checkups? Do you just go to the she's like, do you just go to the dentist whenever you get a cavity? And she's like, but then if you would have gone to the dentist the whole time and got the checkups, then maybe you would never got the cavity. Like, and that was her like her approach. But I was like,
Mm,
honestly, I was like, that to me is like a bit silly because I'm like, I guess you guys don't understand like when it comes to the healthcare system,
mhm,
I feel as if I can choose what I want to opt in and what I want to opt out. So I was like, so yeah,
mhm.
maybe I will go get a dental cleaning if I so choose. But I'm like, that doesn't mean that because there is validity or like a reason that I would do that, that means I have to apply that all across the board for healthcare, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think
Exactly.
there's that concept doesn't really exist. And it was nice because I did have a friend who is definitely like my closest friend in the group that
Mhm,
she was like, honestly, she's like, I'm tired of this conversation. She was like, y'all are going so hard on her. And she's like, we need
mhm.
to get back to like trusting women's intuition. She's
Yeah.
like, that's what I'm trying to get into. She was like, if something feels like she'll know if something's wrong. Like, why would you not allow her to trust her intuition if she feels like things are
Mhm,
not right? And so
mhm.
we also had like we have a nurse practitioner in the group who's very sweet. I love her to death. And she's like, of course she was freaking out because she's a nurse practitioner, right? And
Yeah.
she's like, okay, well, are you checking your sugar? Like, she's like, are you willing to do that? Like, will you check your blood pressure? And she's like, and then she's like, can you just do some of the things? I was like, okay, if I so decide to do those things, I
Mhm,
will. Like, I think maybe I checked my blood pressure like once towards the end, and I got like
mhm.
the urine analysis strips, and like
Yeah.
I never checked my sugar, but she's just like, please, like, just do something. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's okay. I was like, let me hold your hand when I say it's okay. It'll be okay.
Right? Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people are just so stuck in this narrative that we as human beings, and especially women, we just don't know how to care for ourselves without somebody else telling us we're okay. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised that the one friend was like, well, why don't you just get checked out? How do you know if you're okay? And you're
Yeah,
just saying, because I know I'm okay. And
yeah,
that's one of the misconceptions with free birth is that in birthing outside of the system, people think that this woman's making this choice to birth free of the system and not have any prenatal care, that she just doesn't give a shit, or pardon, but like
Exactly.
doesn't give a
Exactly. No,
crap about
literally.
herself or her child. But
Herself
it's
or
like,
the baby, yeah.
actually, she cares more because she's tending to her internal compass and attaching that to her babies and really listening to what it is that she
Yeah.
needs. And if something does arise, she's not just going to say, "Oh I'm feeling really sick right now and like I'm just not going to do anything and just let the universe take care of it." It's like, "Oh, if something
Yeah.
happens, something arises." She knows that she can go to seek medical assistance. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
point of birthing free of the system and being your own authority and holding your own control over what is happening in your body and with your baby. And some people just think that it's like, no, I'm not going to a doctor. I don't care if anything bad
Yeah.
happens to
I
me. I'm
literally.
just never going to seek help. And it's like, that's not what it is at all. These women are taking full control of their life now, finally, and holding this authority and can pick and choose, like you said, whether they want to seek that assistance or go and use this, what is available to them when they want
Exactly.
to. It's just they're not doing it because everybody else just does it. And it's like, oh, well, I guess I have to do it now.
Because I
So.
have to do it, right? And then it was
Yeah.
interesting too, because the same friend who's like, the most strong-willed, but she's like, well, women used to die in childbirth, and like all the time, like, and historically. And so
Mm,
one of my friends who did give birth in the hospital, but she's still like, she's not dumb, and she's not African American, like she's of Indian descent. And she
mhm.
was like, have you seen our like a matern like our mortality rates in America? She's like, we're not like doing great. Like, you do realize that the hospital
Yeah.
is not like this blissful place that nothing bad. She was like, have you seen, like, do you know what's going on around? And I really appreciate that, because it's like, we do have that misconception, or
Mhm.
it's like, oh, in the past people have died during childbirth and now we're not dying as much, or
Mhm.
it's not as bad, so therefore we have done something better. But I'm like, there's
Yeah.
also so many factors that nobody really considers. Like,
Yeah.
is it childbirth? Is it what's happening after childbirth? Is it like sanitary conditions? Is it the
Mhm.
number? Like, there's just so many things, like, that
Yeah.
you just, okay, you think in the past, lots of death during childbirth. Now, much better. So do what you got to do according to what we say that we have to do now. It's just like,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I love that you had that one friend that was just there for you in your corner and like, let her
yeah,
do what she wants to do. She's listening to her body. She's following that intuition. Yeah, that's
yeah,
really nice.
yeah.
Yeah. So then do you want to get deeper into this pregnancy journey and how this started to lead into that birth experience?
Sure, yeah. So I don't know. This pregnancy, I feel like, went so fast, and it
Mm.
probably a large part is because I already had a kid. So I was
Mhm.
like, just really, like I said, just trying my best to eat well, like nourish myself is what I mean by eat well. Nourish
Mhm.
myself. Try to stay moderately active. So, and again, like, when you have an older kid, a lot of times that just is embedded into your everyday. Like,
Yeah.
I just, following him around, having to get him here and there. And then towards the okay, this is actually a key part of the pregnancy. So I don't know at what point in time this was, but I decided, like, oh yeah, and I did start to feel, especially during this pregnancy, that, like, I started to have those red flags about how I
Mm.
thought my first birth went, and it's because of, like, all of what that I was learning about free birth.
Right.
So I was just like, why did my midwife, like, quote unquote, help the baby out? Like, that's
Mm.
just like the one of the first. I was like, why exactly did that happen? Because, and I think especially, there's a page, I can't remember the name of it, maybe Materna Midwifery, but I know she's like, maybe Southwest states. But anyway,
Mhm.
so she was like, there was a video that she posted about the pause, right? So
Mhm.
when the baby, and it's like such a beautiful video, but the baby's head emerges, and then there's like all of this mucus that comes out, and she's like, the pause is so important.
Mhm.
So then I was like, huh. I was like, I had a pause, but then, that's not. I was like, the pause kind of stopped because my midwife decided to help me with the baby. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back and watch the video just so I can, like, kind of get a better understanding of what exactly was
Mhm.
going on.
Mm.
Um, so I watched the video, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna time this pause, because, again, like, what I was like, what exactly was wrong? Like, what was happening that was wrong?
Yeah.
Um, and to her, maybe her assisting the baby was just normal. Maybe she didn't think that there was anything wrong with that. But I was like, yeah, no, it would have been nice actually to not have her do that, because even just like the sense of,
Mhm.
like, okay, I birthed my baby, versus, so I was just like, and I guess the main reason why that was brought out as a concern to me is because I do remember, like, the thing with my sons, like, having so much like extra mucus and just like that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
like fluid in his lungs and her needing to give him air and all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
like I remember nursing him and she was like, okay, I'm here. Like I'm it doesn't sound good. So she's like, I'll give him some air and like all this. So I was just like, huh. So I started putting and I was like, well, maybe it's because his pause was, interrupted. Like that's
Yeah.
ultimately how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was like, okay, well, how long was this pause? So I did time it and it was like literally about a minute. And I was just like, well, and from like the research that I had been doing, I was like, okay, well, sometimes the pause can take a bit longer. And I do like also because I watched the video again, I was able to finally see like the pushing so I knew like
Mm-hmm.
she was telling me to push once the head emerged. And I remember saying like I think maybe I said like, oh, I'm not feeling something or anything like that. But the reality was like I wasn't having another contraction, but she was
Mm-hmm.
encouraging me to push.
Yeah.
And so because the baby was not coming out because I was pushing, but I wasn't actually feeling any contractions, then that's when she's like, okay, I'm gonna help you out.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I didn't get a chance to say, okay, yeah, but I probably would have said yeah anyway because I didn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I started like putting it together and I was like, okay, like what really is a concern? And so that's when I really kind of discovered the concept of shoulder dystocia.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, oh, wait, I'm like, was my baby stuck? Like, I was like, oh, that's really scary. So then I go like this down this rabbit hole of like shoulder dystocia and like how scary it can be, although it's very uncommon, but it does happen and it gets really scary. And I was like, oh crap, like I'm not ready for that. And I was like, I looked how as many videos I could, but surprisingly, not surprisingly, but if you go on like if you YouTube like how to resolve shoulder dystocia, most of those cases, most of the videos I saw, like the woman is, supine and it's
Mm-hmm.
like a doc like literally like even laid flat and it's like the
Yeah.
doctor showing how to maneuver the baby. So I was like, okay, well, that's like I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? And
Yeah.
then going back to the kind of that same the same midwife who initially posted about the pause, I saw that she was showing like, just some of the traditional techniques of like, getting the woman to go on her hands and knees if she's on her back and like
Mm-hmm.
moving. So I started to eventually like gather at least like a repertoire of like how to maybe resolve shoulder dystocia, but then I started to
Mm-hmm.
feel like I was like, but who's actually gonna do it if it is the case? And I was like, do I trust my spouse enough for that? And I was like, I don't know if I do. So then towards the end of my I was and it's not like he's actually very very competent, but I was like I can't explain it real time. Like I don't know. I was like I don't
Yeah.
know how much preparation I can help him do so that he knows what to do without me having to
Mm-hmm.
explain kind of what I know. And so I was like, well, maybe I should have someone there. So that's kind of how I started to feel towards the end of pregnancy. So I
Mm-hmm.
started to kind of just like to look into some midwives, but then I did also kind of understand from like Facebook groups and all that, especially in North Carolina, like you can also customize the type of labor or like birth support that you want. It doesn't have to be like this person was, along your whole pregnancy journey and is your designated midwife. So I was like, oh, maybe I can just have like a birth attendant who just comes if during birth and maybe it's just like very hands off, maybe in another room. Like that's kind of the picture I painted for myself. I was like, maybe they're just off in another room and like if I do need help, they'll be there. So that's ultimately what I decided that I wanted. So I interviewed some midwives and then I was like started seeing those prices and I was like, that's so much for someone who's just gonna be there like for a little while
Mm-hmm.
who because a lot of them they make their packages as if you're getting the care all along
Yeah.
um
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, for someone who I may not actually, need during birth. It's just like an just in case, but they'll already be there. And I was just like, this seems excessive. But then I ultimately did find a doula that said she's like, okay, yeah, I can be there for your birth and I can make that happen for you. But also I asked her to be my postpartum doula, so it was kind of gonna kind of transition very nicely. So I did ask her to be there and I was like I wasn't feeling great about that, but I was like, you know what, this is the best that I feel like I can offer this situation if it were to arise.
Right.
But then definitely leading up to the actual like when I felt like labor was coming, I was like starting to get some contractions earlier in the week, and I was just like, yeah, I really want to do this by myself. Like I know I told her that I would like her. I was like, I really just don't want her there. Like, and it's not because of her. Like I really liked her, but I was like, yeah, I keep feeling like I just want to do this by myself. Um, so then when I was actually like in labor, and I remember this one was going a bit faster because I thought I had more time
Mm-hmm.
because like based on how my last birth went, I was like, it can go anyway, right?
Yeah.
Um, so then I was like, you know what? Like I just whenever felt contractions, I kept doing all the things. Like I was walking around and if I felt one coming on, I was getting on like hands and knees, and then I decided to get in the shower to help with the contractions, and then I was like I was trying to prepare food like in the Instant Pot, and it was so hard to finish it up. I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna make this.
Yeah.
But I ultimately did. It was great. And then my husband like brought the food to me, and I remember my oldest son like was having like flu symptoms around this time, so I was like, okay, well he's gonna have to be away from me ideally, which
Hmm.
was it was sad, but it was actually great because he was like kind of doing his own thing around the house, and he was chilling, and then my husband was like tending to him, so he wasn't actually with me during the birth. So I was like, he's
Okay.
actually pretty nice, like because I didn't want to have to tell him like, can you go away, like.
Yeah. Right.
So it just worked out really nicely that I was just like doing my thing, and he was like tending to my to our older son and
Hmm.
like helping. I was like, if I was hungry, he's like, okay, I'll go get you what I was able to prepare, and he brought that, and he's just like, are you doing okay? And then he would go back and forth. um so then I remember like I got in the tub because I was like, all right, I'm gonna, because I had been practicing like how I would kind of navigate in our tub, because it's like a normal size, but I was like,
Hmm.
how am I gonna do this? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it and just get in there and do what I had been doing up until now. So I was like in there, I was lying down and like trying to get my belly in the water, and I like put my leg up, and the contractions were so intense. And then my husband comes, and he's like, and I was like, okay, like things are getting intense. And I remember feeling like a pop like in the water, and it was just like, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure my water just broke. And of course I'm like feeling it. And then he's like, okay. He's like, what do you want me to do? He's like, do you want me to call the doula? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you can probably call her. Like, probably be a good time. And still in my mind, I'm like, I can do this, but let's just call her so that she's at least coming or
Hmm.
making her way. She was like, okay. She was asking how I was feeling. She was like, all right, I'm on my way. She's like, it's gonna take me about 30 minutes, but I'm on my way.
Hmm.
And then my spouse was like, you want to give birth in the water? And I was like, no, I don't. And he's like, okay, you might want to get out because I guess I was just showing the signs of being like ready to go.
Yeah.
So he helped me get out, and that was like so intense. And then I'm like making my way back to my room, but like with my steps are like just they're so heavy and so intense. And then I like finally get to the threshold of my room, which is they're not very far apart.
Hmm.
And then I like get in my room, and I was like, the baby's coming. So then
Mm.
I mean, mind you, this is all like within 2 minutes of just calling the doula, and then I get in there, and I like really I feel the pressure to bear down. So I was like, all right, the baby's coming. Like he's like, okay. And I had happened to have like some like towels on the floor and like Chuck's pads, but he was like grabbing more, and I was like, the baby's coming. And so I like I can't I don't even push because there's nothing I can do, like the baby's coming. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like trying to like bear. I was standing up, and I was like on the edge of the bed. I was just trying to like bear down as much as I could, because in my mind I'm like, I do not want shoulder dystocia to happen. Like we're
Mm.
not. I'm just like, I'm gonna do everything I can so that that's not my reality, especially because that was like the biggest concern going to this birth. So I was starting high and going down as low as I could. And my husband's like, you gotta get up, like the baby's gonna. I'm like, he's like, basically, he's like, I'm sure he's freaking out. I was like, the baby's gonna like, his head is just gonna like bust on the floor. But he's like, you gotta get up some. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, okay, the baby's head is out. And then I'm like, okay. And he's like, all right. He's like, go ahead and push. And I was like, and then the baby's head goes back up. He's like, the baby's head went back up. And I was like, it's okay. So then I like stand up
Mm.
again, and I come down again. And then finally, like, baby just emerges, and my husband catches him. And I was like, oh
Mm.
my goodness. Like, I just free birth. Like, this is crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
And I didn't know the gender of this one either. So he gave it to me, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, it's a boy.
Mm.
And so I was like, well, I knew it, but it was so nice. Like, it's always nice when you finally meet your baby.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, that went like very, I was like, that was kind of super easy. Like, yeah, the contractions were intense, but I was like, and the way my husband describes it, he's like, I just feel like there's not like, that is how it is meant to be. And there's kind of like, no, it's very straightforward. Like that's what he said. He's like, it's very
Hmm.
straightforward. And that's what he tells his friends. He's like,
Hmm.
because when his friends are like considering, doing birth centers or whatever, and he's like, yeah, this is like the best example for me of like when
Hmm.
something is designed and it's divinely designed, like it just
So,
happens the way it does.
so your husband was very on board with you birthing in this
Oh
way
yeah.
straight from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I'm very fortunate to have that be my reality.
Hmm.
And like even when I was having those concerns, I think he's like very he definitely grounds me, and just like it's like, don't worry about it, like
Hmm.
it'll be okay. So
Hmm.
he's even like he talks to his friends about, like I said, he's like he talks to his friends about C-section rates, and he talks to his friends about everything. And just like
Yeah.
he's like, the C, he's like, it's all like money, and he goes
Hmm.
so hard, and I'm like, yeah, you work on the husbands and the the fathers. I'm like, I'll work on the moms, you
I
know.
love that. You guys are a great tag team.
We are. We are. And my husband is a very he's a very logical person, very
hmm
rational. Like, I mean, I hate it sometimes, but like he's just someone like if you and he I mean he's also very he's very spiritually rooted and has a really great connection with God. So it's like
Yeah.
if you like lay things out for him and it he just sees it, he's able to see the picture and but you have to you have to explain things to him and
hmm
at the end of the day he's just like, yep. And so I know something that definitely really rooted us both and me especially is just like the story of Mary as it's told in the Quran. So I'm not really fully familiar with the Bible's telling of it, but I know like in the Quran it says that Mary, like when she's obviously she conceived, and then she's told basically like when it's basically labor starting, like she leaves. She's told to leave and go a bit further out, and
hmm
she's literally by herself, the way that it's told in that way. And so she's obviously told to like
mm
grab a tree that's near her. She's told to grab the tree. Like she ends up grabbing it, and she's like, I would rather, literally, her words are like, I would rather die than have this be like my reality. Like basically, birth is just like killing her. She's like,
mm
I would rather be dead than have this be my case. And so she's told to shake the tree, or
mm
like she's told to shake the tree, and basically dates like fall down to her, and then like beneath her there's like a stream and this is all for her sustenance, right? So it's like I was like, honestly, I'm like, and that's what I told my friends. I'm like, the Quran is something that we as Muslims we believe is obviously divinely written, but also preserved. And I'm like, and it's meant to be preserved for all time. So I try to tell my friends, I'm like, I was like, we have like written proof, or like not
hmm
written proof, but like preserved history of and only really the only birth that's in the Quran. And I'm like, and it's a free birth. So I was like, honestly, like I
Yes.
don't have to. I was like, I don't have to explain anything to any of you, but if you
hmm
want to talk, we can talk about it. But I was like, that, for me, that's enough for me. Like
Yeah.
obviously we are rational people. We use what is ever at our disposal to help ourselves if we need to. But I was like, but our we have a preserved example of literal free birth in our spiritual books. I was like, honestly, like I'm good. Like that's all I need to know. I know that
hmm
doing something like this is not going against what God thinks is best for or God has written is best for us. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, like I need nothing more. And that's
Yeah.
how my husband felt. He was like, yeah, like there's nothing to talk about. Like let's do it.
I think that's beautiful. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow. And how was your placental birth with this baby?
Yeah, okay. So the doula did come. Baby was already born. I was like, sorry. I was just kidding. But she came and baby was latching. Yeah, I believe he was already nursing. And yeah, this time I heard like no issues with breathing, no like not issues, but signs of like having fluid in his lungs or anything. It was very like he
hmm
was very he was came up plump. He was
hmm
very like red, and so when she got here, she's like, "Oh my gosh, like you look so good," and she's like, "All right, well, like that was her focus. She was like, all right, let's try to get this placenta out." And I was like, oh God. Like, but the first birth, I don't remember even like dreading the idea of birthing the placenta. But this one, I was like, oh no, like I'm
hmm
not trying to do anything else. And she's like kind of rubbing my like belly, and she's like kind of tugging on the not aggressively, but she is like kind of gently tugging on the umbilical cord just to kind of see. And she's like, all right, like, let's try to do some things. And of course, I'm like trying to get the baby to latch. And so that she was like, okay, like, so I don't know if she recommended or I was like, all right, I was like, let's just do this. Like, I'm so over this. So I just like get up on my knees. I was in the bed, but I'm up on my knees and I'm like bringing the baby and he's nursing. And then finally she's like, all right, like, and it comes out. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Like, I'm so over this. I'm gonna lay back down. Like, so that was really great. She was there at this time. And then I did also one other person that I had met during the pregnancy, because again, like I didn't realize you could like customize your birth care, but it was just a midwife. She's a midwife that lived probably like 10 or 15 minutes away from me, and so I asked her, I was like, "Oh, do you mind coming after the birth just to?" And this is something that she does. And she was like, "Yep,
Yeah.
I'll come." She's like, "I'll come. I'll check you out, check the baby out, do like the standard." I was like, "That's so nice," because I was also like, I was like, "What am I mean? You don't have to do anything, right? Like that's the reality. You don't have to do anything." But
hmm
I did. I think that would like at the time gave me a lot of peace of mind. So I called
Yeah.
her. She came, she checked the baby out, she checked me out. She's like, things are looking good. And then she's like, I'll come back in a few days to do the prick test. And so yeah, that's what she did. And yeah, it was like $200. I was like, this is so nice. Like,
And it's your
who
choice
knew?
too.
It was
That's
my
the
choice.
thing. Like you got to make that choice if you wanted this woman to enter in that immediate postpartum phase and then days
Yeah,
after. And so
exactly.
it feels really settled when you get to make that choice. But when it's forced upon you, then it's totally a different story.
Yeah. So I felt I was really like, I was like, wow, like I really was able to put together like the birth
Mm-hmm.
that I wanted, and I didn't feel like anything was like you said forced upon me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like any maneuvers were forced upon me. I didn't feel like even like, oh, you want to practice, but like none of that. I was just like, yo, the baby's coming, like the baby's here, and
Mm-hmm.
that's I just had to trust in my body and just do what I could. And then even the postpartum, like it's like whoever whatever I feel like I need, it would be a
Yeah.
choice. But
Yeah, absolutely. And this breastfeeding journey is obviously going quite well because you've had your
yeah,
son with you.
so
Yeah.
yep. So he also latched right away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he nurses like a champ. They both do.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Mm-hmm.
definitely like they are some night nurses. I'm like last night I was like, yo, I cannot. Like I was like, can you just go over there and go to sleep for a few hours? And
Yeah.
I have my watch, so I like to check in the morning sometimes to see like how much sleep I got or like how many times I
Mm.
woke up. And I was like, but like I mentioned earlier in the call, I am expecting again, which was a total surprise to me.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, when you go from like 4 year age gap.
Hmm.
Definitely, I was not expecting I guess what would be close to 18 months. So I am still like I was annoyed, but I was also like, just get it in while you can,
Hmm.
because like I have heard so many stories of moms whose milk supply decreases, sometimes midway through pregnancy. So I was like,
Hmm.
I do walk the balance of just do what you need to do to get what you can while you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. That's such, I love that the both stories, but I just love this second story of you just knowing what you wanted and doing it and like curating your pregnancy experiences and your birth experiences and even your
Yeah.
postpartum experience to
Yeah.
be what you want and feeling good about it and happy about it. And I also want to mention, as you were moving into the transition of the second babe about to be born, how you went back and like looked at the videos and we're studying this birth, your first
Yeah.
birth, and the maneuvers that this midwife did for you. And I love that you went back into that and really were asking those questions because some women they just don't, and then they just think like whatever happened, it happened. I don't need to kind of get into it, figure it out, or get the answers for themselves. So
Right.
I'm really happy that you did that because as you were speaking to it, in the first stories, you're speaking to like, yes, the baby was starting to emerge and then had a bit of a pause, but then the midwife just came in. And then after the midwife had to give the baby oxygen because there was a bit of gurgling, I was just thinking in my head, it seems very she disturbed that. And if she had
Yeah.
just waited a little bit longer, I'm sure your baby, because there's that restitution, sometimes the baby just needs a little break. You, as the mother, need to have like a little break, a little
Yeah.
breath before the baby fully emerges. And if that had happened, obviously, I don't know this for sure, but I would say with a bit of a surety that if that had happened, your baby, because his chest would have been compressed really well. All of that
Hmm.
mucus that was stuck in the lungs would have been able to be released. So the baby wouldn't have needed oxygen. And giving babies oxygen is actually not a really good idea in the first place. It's not,
Yeah.
it's
It
very
was so
harmful to
scary.
them. And then, yeah, the mucus in the lungs would have had an easier way to release because he would have naturally just moved through the birth canal. And, the pressure is what when the yoni's going around the baby's body, that's what it needs to clear it. So, yeah, it's just like little things like that where I'm like, she quote unquote helped, but also with her helping, she created something too, So I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you went into that and you got the answers that you were looking for. And then you could make choices. Like then you started looking through um, shoulder dystocia and how to maneuver your body and make sure that you could do the best you could to make sure that that wouldn't happen. So
Yeah.
I love hearing women that actually take action in these choices to birth free of the system. You're not just sitting there doing nothing and being like, oh, it'll just all work out, I hope. Like you're
Yeah.
taking the action, you're doing the work. And it's just like that is what birthing free of the system is meant to be for mothers. So I just want to say how proud I am of you for doing that and taking that initiative and yeah, doing what you needed to do for yourself and your baby. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm definitely blessed to have the ability because I mean because I did have the recording, I was able to do that. But I know some people like
Hmm.
so many moms are just kind of like yeah, like you said, things are happening to them,
Hmm.
and some of it they just forget, like they just like it's all a blur, right? So
Yeah.
it really is hard, and a lot of us maybe know, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's really hard when those things are happening to you and they're happening fast, and you're like you know the things that you definitely don't want, so anything
Yeah.
else is just kind of like okay, do what you have to do, and I think
Yeah.
that's often what happens to so many moms who
Hmm.
end up birthing in the system. So
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing the story. And yeah, congratulations on this third babe. I'm so excited that you're navigating this again. And yeah, it's exciting. It's so exciting
it
to
is.
just like, continually step further and deeper into your power and follow your intuition and just do this innately, and just do what the female body is meant to do. So I'm just, yeah, it's so incredible. Women are just so incredible.
I know we are, and I think like a large part is it's also like it's daunting in a lot of ways because I think I'm someone who definitely like there I do share I like to share with people just for the sake
Mhm.
of like I mean one to be able to make people aware of that you can do
Mhm.
something like this, but I also
Mhm.
I try not to be the person that has to like eat my words for lack of better words. So
Yeah.
I think there's at least for this coming birth, I'm like I really am just like praying that things go well and I'm able to kind of lean back into that. But I'm also like,
Mhm.
I mean everything is not always gonna be perfect. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm sharing this story. I'm like I do want to share just because, it gives
Mhm.
people hope and it gives them something to know that they can do. But I'm also like,
Mhm.
I pray that I don't have to eat my words. Like I don't know
Mhm. Yeah.
how to,
Yeah. Makes
so
sense. Yeah.
it's very like
Mhm.
I'm like I've been a lot more like quiet this pregnancy so far,
Good.
and
Yeah.
I'm just like let's just do it. Let's keep things on the
Mhm.
let's focus on inward. And
Yeah.
so I said a lot to not say much,
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah.
but I am trying to
Oh.
also stay like remain very humble
Mhm.
and introspective. So
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's a beautiful place to be when you're doing this, navigating this journey. Yeah.
yeah.
I do have, before we close up, I'm curious, do you know the gestation that you were at when you first went into your birth process with baby number one and baby two? How many weeks you were?
Yeah, so yep. So for the first one, I was like 40 plus 2 when he was ultimately born.
Mm.
And then this one, like based on my guesstimation, I think he was closer to like 39 plus 2,
Okay. Okay,
give or take.
cool.
So yeah, he came a little, I was like, I'm like, okay, let's go to 40. And he was like, nope, I'm coming a little bit early.
Nice. Okay, wonderful. Wow. Well, Haniyyah, this has been just so amazing and incredible to listen to your stories. And if there are any women out there, especially Muslim women, that might want to reach out and connect with you to, educate themselves further if they want to make this choice of birthing free of the system, or any women. But I do love that you are a Muslim woman and you can be a face for other Muslim women like Chantel was for you.
For sure.
How can women reach out to you?
The best way would probably be my Instagram. It's at Haniyah, so HANIYYAH, loves you, spelled regular, LOVSYOU.
Mm.
And I think Instagram is really nice too because, like I said, this world of free birthing, especially amongst Muslim women, is really taking off.
Mm.
And it's beautiful to witness. So I have
Mhm.
been able to be exposed to a lot more pages and a lot more content around this. So there's obviously a lot of other there's a lot of Muslim women who are really doing the work and doing the education that I could point anyone in the direction to. So that would be the best way
Mhm.
to reach out to me and get plugged in. But it's been
Perfect.
beautiful to see this kind of really take off.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's so great. And I'm sure women will definitely be reaching out to you. Wow. Thank you so much, Haniyyah, for speaking with me.
Thank you, Karma.
Thank you so much, women, for listening to this latest episode of the Free Birthing in Color movement. If you want to continue supporting this movement and all that comes with it, please give a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Like the videos on YouTube and share this episode with some of your friends. As reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and the content that I'm creating, it only takes 2 minutes to show your support through a 5-star rating, a small written review, and a share. If you want to give a monetary donation to help with the back end costs of keeping everything that is happening within this movement going, you can send your donations through PayPal via the link in the show notes. And again, as reciprocity for the work that I'm doing and creating, I'm so grateful when those donations come through. All information can be found within the show notes below. I'll see you in the next episode.